Hello everyone, I'm Caitlin. So today I'm going to be talking about Unit 2, which is chapters 4, 5, and 7. Like I said, they're the three chapters, chapter 4 over emotion, chapter 5 over culture, and chapter 7 over listening. So I'm going to go through these chapters and talk about the things that I found most interesting or helpful, or just some stories that I have pertaining to the topics. So beginning with chapter 4. So chapter 4 is all about emotions, feelings, and moods. And then the book starts off by giving some definitions over these. Emotions being events that evoke a reaction. And then these reactions can be a couple different things, feelings or moods. So feelings are short-term reactions, and then moods are low-intensity reactions. So for example, maybe somebody makes you really, really angry. You get really ticked off, your voice might start shaking, your hands might start shaking, you get a shot of adrenaline. It's not a pleasant feeling, and so you're really mad. But that anger and that feeling doesn't last very long. Eventually you get out of that situation, you calm yourself down, and then that feeling's over. And then that experience could lead to a change in your mood. And so this is the low intensity reaction. So while you had that really intense reaction of being angry, once you step away from it and calm yourself down, it could still linger in your mood. So you might not be thinking about that incident for the rest of your day, but your day might not have gone as planned due to that incident. And so that's just how the book describes emotions, feelings, and moods. I found this to be really interesting. I would not have, if someone asked me to give definitions over the emotions, feelings, and moods, those aren't the definitions I would have gave, but I found that to be really interesting and helpful. And then moving on to chapter 5. So chapter 5 discusses culture. I find culture to be a really interesting concept that most people are pretty aware of nowadays. People are aware that there are cultural differences and to be courteous over those, which the book does discuss, to be aware of people's cultural differences. But I just find this topic to be really interesting, and I'm glad that people are aware that the American culture is going to be much different than, say, like a Japanese culture. But I also find it interesting that culture, there's still culture on a smaller scale. So for example, in my school, we had a freshman history professor who showed this little short YouTube video to all of his classes. And that video, everyone really liked it, everyone found it really funny. And then throughout the whole rest of our high school, people would make references to it. The teacher showed the video every year, so even the new students knew about it. We would make references referring to it all the time, and people thought it was really funny. But then even just the other day, I tried to reference that show here, and this person had no idea what I was talking about. He went to a different school than I was, in a different area. He had no idea what this movie was. And that's a cultural difference, even just on that smaller scale, between me and another student. We lived in the same area, we just went to a different high school, and that was a big cultural difference just between us. So while I think it's great that people are aware of the big picture of cultural differences, I think it's interesting that there are still cultural differences even between smaller, just between areas, that the distance isn't as far in. And then moving on to chapter 7. So chapter 7 is all about listening, and basically it just explains that listening is really comprehending, which I found really funny because in school I had a teacher, and this teacher would ask us all the time if we are listening to her or hearing her, because there's a difference between the two. She would ask us if we were listening to her, and obviously everyone would be like, yeah, of course we're listening to her, and she'd be like, no, you guys are hearing me. Just because you're hearing what I'm saying doesn't necessarily mean that you understood what she was saying, which I found to be very true, and that's always stuck with me. Another example would be, like, maybe you listen to a song, like you hear the song all the time, you knew about it, you might even know the words to it, but whenever you sit down and really listen to it and listen to the lyrics and to the words, it could have a totally different meaning than you thought it would have originally had. And so listening is comprehending, and I think that is a really important concept as well. So I discussed Unit 2, went over Chapter 4 over emotions, Chapter 5 over culture, and Chapter 7 over listening. I hope you found something interesting in it, and thanks.